I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
The Republican Party's racist.
Oh my God! He admitted!
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. We got a big show for you today. So, oh wow, do I have some great stories to share with you today. The news cycle is bananas. So we're going to talk about that. We've got all sorts of different stories of Republicans' ghouls, essentially. We have the Tennessee 3. So that's a huge, huge story. We have that. We have, of course, the response to that weird progressives and Democrats coming together against Republicans. That's what I love to see. So we'll do that. We also have Republican admitting democracy, we're not in favor of that. Yes, another one. We also are going to talk about how North Dakota, Republicans in North Dakota, totally fine with starving kids, but not fine when it comes to, spending their own money on meals. I've got the details on that for you. Again, total GOP hypocrisy on this. But first, we're going to start out with dunking on Kari Lake. Yes, I know. But it's not just me dunking on Kari Lake. It's the Arizona Republic as well. And with a hilarious article I'm going to share with you. With that said, let's do it. By the way, before you do, like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. All right. Diving in. Okay. Losing loser Kari Lake is being mocked roundly for her continued attempts to steal the governorship of Arizona away from the rightful winner through her nonsense legal challenges that keep getting tossed out in court. So now, central, of course, to Kari Lake's claim is that her voters were illegally denied access because of a ballot tabulator problem in certain precincts. So look, I actually think that that could be a valid argument if it had been proven that there were no alternative ways of casting ballots that didn't rely on that broken tabulator. So if they literally did not have any way to put in their votes, then yes, she would have a case, and that would be, okay, great, let's hear it out. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Election officials had alternate ways of making sure to tabulate those ballots. And so they were able to get around that issue without a problem. And so at the end of the day, what happened is Kari Lake had overestimated her support, her potential turnout, instead of accepting the reality that she was wrong. I know. Imagine somebody doing some prognostication and getting that little prediction wrong. I know. And her turnout was not as strong as she had predicted / hoped for. But instead of accepting that, she decides, no. It is you who are wrong. It is the numbers that are wrong. Yes, it's the math that's wrong. I want a new election. To which I say,
No.
Stupid. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So, look, by the way, all the information against Kari Lake is backed up by facts, even from Republican election workers. Nonetheless, Kari Lake has been trying to sue her way into the governorship by, of course, going and presenting the specter of unproven election fraud. There's so much election fraud. It might even be involving
Jewish space lasers.
I don't know. Maybe it's the
woke mob.
I don't know. It's something, anything, please help me. I just want to, I don't want to lose. I just want to win. I just want to win. Well, sorry, dude. You lost. Sad day for you. You can run again. You can run again. But anyway, so now, that said, recently, the Arizona Republic's E.J. Montini offered a suggestion to Kari Lake, a not so serious suggestion, but nonetheless, for how she can actually take over the state. He says, why doesn't she just proclaim herself the Baroness of Arizona? Yes! Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, that sounds insane. Yes, of course. It is insane. But it turns out somebody actually tried to do that before. So here's a little bit of interesting Arizona history. Montini wrote that back in the late 1800s, a man named James Rivas came up with a plan to basically take over millions of acres of land in Arizona by claiming that he was Mexican royalty. Rivas, which sounds a lot like Beavis, he decided to manufacture a fake family tree, to forge documents, and use his natural charisma in order to convince prominent citizens, politicians, and celebrities to believe that he actually was a member of the Mexican royal family with a legitimate claim to millions of acres of land under the Treaty of Guadalupe. I mean, there's literally a movie about it, 1950s, called The Baron of Arizona. History, man, fascinating. I love it. History, facts, you know you love it. I know I do. All right, so now Montini continues by saying Lake's lawyers are going to have to convince a court that she should not face sanctions and have to pay legal fees to Hobbs and Secretary of State Adrian Fontes over her frivolous lawsuits. They'll probably fail at that well, he writes. Then Lake will jump to the U.S. Senate race in Arizona, claiming that the only way she could lose is if the voting is rigged and the election stolen. When that, too, fails, Lake could just go the Rivas route and claim to be of royal blood. It may seem far-fetched, but Rivas almost managed to pull off, 130 years ago, a time when Arizona was raw and unsullied, and its wide-eyed, unsophisticated residents were easy marks. Okay. First of all, I love the amount of sarcasm in this article, in this piece. It's wonderful because basically he's treating Kari Lake exactly the way she deserves to be treated. Like a joke, a clown, because that's what she is. At one point, she could have been a serious contender. But at this point, she's a sideshow. And that's really all it is. And look, I also love the suggestion because it has as much chance of happening as Katie Hobbs just handing over the governorship to Kari Lake, which would be about a 0% chance. But who knows? Look, maybe some of the people who follow Kari Lake and think, and buy into all of her nonsense, and there's unfortunately a lot of those people, they might actually believe her if she decides to claim nobility. Okay. I mean, they do seem to believe, again, on all the other insane things that she puts out there. Why not another thing? If you're so far out of touch of reality, why not believe that she's the Baroness of Arizona and that she has been unfairly deposed? Hell, you could even make her a little crown. Do barons even get crowns? I don't know. Or baronesses, sorry. And if they don't, she could just get one from like Burger King or something. I don't know. Or Amazon herself a little tiara. She might be all set. Either way, both of those things would be befitting to her new station as the Baroness Kari. Coronet. There you go. These people are hilarious. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get into something a little bit more serious, and that is what went down in Tennessee. Hoo boy. Republican lawmakers in Tennessee just showed us how little they actually care about democracy. On Thursday, Republican Tennessee lawmakers voted to expel 2 black Democratic state representatives, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, after they had joined in previous peaceful protests calling for stronger gun safety laws. Now, there was also a third representative that was targeted for expulsion. However, she ended up holding on to her seat. That's Representative Gloria Johnson. So now there's a difference here. See, Jones and Pearson are black. Johnson, who, again, barely survived her vote, is white. Now, all of them, of course, they're on the right side here in arguing on behalf of their constituents for some stronger gun laws. So now, of course, those expulsion hearings were in response to them leading these protests, or at least leading protesters in chants without being recognized to speak. Oh, you have to be recognized to speak, do you? Well, two black guys and a woman getting a little uppity. Well.
Can't let that happen.
No. So this is clearly Tennessee Republicans saying, sit down and shut up. In the Republican-led resolution to expel the members, the protests were described as disorderly behavior that knowingly and intentionally brought disorder and dishonor to the House of Representatives. Later on, of course, certain Republican members also called this a quote-unquote insurrection. How dare you break our beloved decorum by having these uppity black men and a woman speak when they're not supposed to be speaking? That's what it is. Again, it's all about silencing opposition. In fact, Jones, during a speech, when this, I should say before this vote had passed, illustrated the hypocrisy of Tennessee Republicans when it comes to their votes to expel members for bad conduct. Take a look.
Let's talk about expulsion. For years, one of your colleagues who was an admitted child molester sat in this chamber. No expulsion. One member sits in this chamber who was found guilty of domestic violence. No expulsion. We had a member pee in another member's chair in this chamber. No expulsion. In fact, they're in leadership.
Wow. And that's just a snippet. A lot of that speech and the speeches that were given yesterday were just fantastic. But that's enough to really show you the hypocrisy. Oh, so you've got all these members that have gotten themselves into trouble. And not only that, but, messed with other people and even peed in their chair. No expulsions on that, but how dare you, speak out against the gun lobby and in favor of young kids who are being murdered, we got to get rid of you. Oh, of course. Now, I looked into this a little bit more. So Tennessee politics, it's dirty. It's nasty. And I don't just mean the pee. Again, you had Republicans. By the way, the pee incident, that didn't even involve Democrats. That was Republican infighting over some anonymous Twitter account that was apparently, again, this was fighting over the GOP chairmanship, and it got dirty and a little wet. Okay. Now you also have, by the Republican Representative David Byrd, who has been accused by multiple women of sexual abuse when he was their high school basketball coach. Wait, I thought Republicans didn't like groomers. What is that? What is that? I would say it's grooming. If it happened to be true. So now, again, with all of that and all the different investigations into Republicans for acting poorly, nobody got expelled. Not only that, but even after you have video of Republican Representative Justin Lafferty pushing Representative Jones on the House floor, nothing happens. Nothing happened to him. But again, speak up for your constituents during a peaceful protest. Well, then you are done. You are done. No, it's not about bad behavior, okay? It's about what Republicans are actually afraid of in Tennessee. Here's an example.
Yes, I tell you, it was a sad day on Saturday. All hope seemed to be lost. Representatives were thrown out of the State House. Democracy seemed to be at its end. Seemed like the NRA and gun lobbyists might win. But oh, that was good news for us. I don't know how long this Saturday in the state of Tennessee might last. But oh, we have good news, folks. We've got good news that Sunday always comes. Resurrection is a promise, and it is a prophecy. It's a prophecy that came out of the cotton fields. It's a prophecy that came out of the lynching tree. It's a prophecy that still lives in each and every one of us in order to make the state of Tennessee the place that it ought to be. And so I've still got hope because I know we are still here and we will never quit.
Out of order. Out of order.
There is nothing more frightening to the white establishment than a black man who is fighting for all the people. Now remember, this is about trying to protect children from the very real threat of gun violence, as opposed to the things that Tennessee Republicans right now are fighting against that are not threats. For example, critical race theory being taught in schools and drag queens, transgender people in sports. That's what Tennessee Republicans, while they're deregulating guns, by the way, making it so that more people can have more guns and get them more easily. They're afraid of younger people that are actually challenging them on their views and their control of the state. Now, I want to show you one more video here. And this is the other member of the Tennessee Three, Gloria Johnson. Now, she was recently asked why she believed her colleagues were expelled while she was not? Here's her answer.
Why were those two expelled and you weren't?
Well, I think it's pretty clear I'm a 60-year-old white woman, and they are two young black men. You know, one of the things with Brett Pearson, when he got sworn in, he wore a dashiki. And there's like, oh, you can't dress like that on the floor. Well, for him, that is a formal wear, and he had a suit over it. But they had such a problem with that. You know, this younger generation, they do things a little bit differently, but they're passionate and they're smart and they're advocates for their community and they're going to fight for their community. And I think some of our members just are a little older and it's something new they're not used to, but they're going to have to get used to it because these two young men are so powerful.
Now, I think she was a little too nice to her Republican colleagues, but her point is, yeah, they're strong, they're powerful, they're voices, and now they've just been elevated. Look, the fact that they are those things is why Republicans don't want them in that office, do not want them to serve. Look, a lot of these old congressional bodies are they're the old good old boys club, especially in Tennessee. Is it any surprise that they want to keep it that way? That said, the fact that this now has national attention is why their efforts are ultimately going to backfire. Because now they have a much bigger platform. Now people are paying attention to what's going on in Tennessee. And I think it really is galvanizing the nation. All right. Let me give you an example of that now. Tennessee lawmakers are getting a lot of backlash for voting to expel two black Democratic representatives for taking part in peaceful protest against gun violence. Thursday evening, Republicans voted to expel State Representative Justin Jones and State Representative Justin Pearson. They also tried to expel a third, Gloria Johnson, but that vote had failed. Gloria Johnson happens to be white. All three of them were charged with violating House decorum by basically standing in the well and speaking in support of thousands of protesters 1 week earlier about, of course, doing something about the gun violence. Now, following that vote, Pearson and Jones both spoke out. I've got excerpts from that. Take a look.
You cannot ignore the racial dynamic of what happened today. Two young black lawmakers get expelled and the one white woman does not. That's a statement in and of itself. We can never normalize the ending of democracy. We can never normalize the tyranny of the way that these people in positions of power are operating due to white supremacy and due to the maintenance of patriarchy.
You know, if I didn't know what happened to me, I would think it was 1963, not 2023, that a predominantly, almost entirely white Republican caucus expelled the two youngest black lawmakers, not for any unethical or criminal behavior, but for our First Amendment activity and for standing and doing our job to speak up for our constituents and to speak up particularly for young people who are terrified of these weapons of war on our streets.
So now, of course, look, they're really, really good at, of course, defending themselves and speaking out for their communities, and both very incredibly powerful speakers. So I love it. But it's not just them. Others have rallied to their defense. In fact, we actually have progressives and establishment Democrats rallying around these two young black lawmakers. In fact, we're going to start out with Representative Rashida Tlaib saying, quote, "This is fascism. Expelling your political opponents for demanding action on gun violence when children are dying is disgusting." Representative Summer Lee of Pennsylvania called it, quote, straight up fascism in its ugliest, most racist form. There's no justification for ousting 2 legislators who were protesting with and for their constituents. That 2 black men were expelled for standing up against the murder of children, but not their white counterpart, says it all. People are dying because Republicans want to put politics over the lives of people they represent. They ask for safety for themselves, but not for school children, and they'll sacrifice the lives of our loved ones for their lobbyists. Representative Jim McGovern said, quote, this is fascism, full stop. MAGA Republicans are no longer content with inaction on gun violence. Instead of thoughts and prayers, they want to silence and expel politicians who speak up to protect children. I vehemently condemn this racist, undemocratic assault on freedom of speech. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez weighed in. Quote, Republicans may think that they won today in Tennessee, but their fascism is only further radicalizing and awakening an earthquake of young people, both in the South and across the nation. If you thought youth organizing was strong, just wait for what's coming. So now there's again a mix of progressives, but wait, even the White House weighed in. Whoa. In fact, President Biden released a statement, quote, today's expulsion of lawmakers who engaged in peaceful protests is shocking, undemocratic, and without precedent. Rather than debating the merits of the issue, these Republican lawmakers have chosen to punish, silence, and expel duly elected representatives of the people of Tennessee. A majority of Americans want lawmakers to act on common sense gun safety reforms, but instead, we've continued to see Republican officials across America double down on dangerous bills that make our schools, places of worship, and communities feel less safe. Our kids continue to pay the price. That's not all. Here comes Obama. That's right. Obama. Here's what he put out in a tweet. Quote, what happened in Tennessee is the latest example of a broader erosion of civility and democratic norms. Silencing those who disagree with us is a sign of weakness, not strength, and it won't lead to progress. So, look, the whole idea of Republicans using civility as a reason to expel them is just ridiculous. And so, like, I hear the civility argument, and it's like, no. You understand? That's the argument they're using against these young black men. These young black lawmakers who were duly elected, and now those constituents that they represent do not have representation anymore. But anyway, there's more. One, as I mentioned, some of them had talked about legality. Well, is it illegal? It turns out, might be. Former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance wrote that, quote, what happened in Tennessee on Thursday was outrageous and stupid and petty, and then the legislature went on to advertise their racism. It was also illegal. So, again, Vance is a professor of law and contributor for MSNBC/NBC News. She said, quote, it shouldn't take long for the next stage of this play to play out in the courts, but that shouldn't excuse the fact that it happened in the first place. All right, so now, Republicans, again, are claiming that, oh, my decorum. But also, some of them have claimed that this protest was not a protest, but an insurrection, that these people are insurrectionists. Last week, Tennessee Republican House Speaker Cameron Sexton and other House Republicans compared this to the Capitol riots, which left several police injured and resulted in millions of dollars of damage. That's the Capitol riots. Whereas, how many people were injured and arrested during the protests in Tennessee? Well, according to the Tennessee Highway Patrol, on last Friday, noted that the protests at the state capitol on Thursday were peaceful with zero property damage or arrests. Oops. Quote, this is Lieutenant Bill Miller, THP Public Information Officer. It was a loud demonstration, but resolved peacefully. it was resolved with no arrests and no damaged property. Look, all of these protests were peaceful. That's it. They were peaceful. In fact, I want to show you a compilation here of what Republicans considered an insurrection.
Enough is enough! Enough is enough!
Enough is enough! Enough is enough! When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on.
It's not an issue of left or right, it's a moral issue of right and wrong. The majority of Tennesseans support common sense gun legislation. Thursday, when thousands of students and mothers and parents and grandparents showed up to the Capitol peacefully, peacefully.
It won't be long. Yes.
To call for an end to the terror, for an end to school children being massacred on the House floor. All they had were moments of silence.
Kids are still in body bags. You can look, you can track. Kids are still in body bags.
Hey, look at that. People protesting? Average people? Insurrection. Well.
Oh my God! He admitted!
That's all I gotta say there. Okay. Wow. So, let's move on here. Okay. Oh, I don't have the video on this. Crap. Oh, it's such a good video. All right, so we'll have to skip on that since I don't have the clip, but we're still going to do the story. Wait, do I have the clip?
Enough is enough!
Okay, I do not. I don't. Damn it.
There's insanity in the control room.
Okay. I guess we'll just move on, and we'll do it without the clip. A Minnesota Republican recently said the quiet part out loud. Now, during a debate on an omnibus spending bill in the Minnesota state legislature, Representative Matt Bliss basically said that expanding democracy in the United States would just not be a good idea. Quote, the national popular vote, I know some people say that it strengthens each individual vote, but this brings us closer to a democracy. That is not a good thing. Our public needs to support the democracy. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. So, let me get this straight. Democracy, bad. People electing government, ugh.
Can't let that happen.
So, look, I hear this a lot from right-wingers about, again, democracy. Oh, we're not actually a democracy. We're not a democracy. We're not a democracy. No. We're a constitutional republic. That's what it is. Yes, constitutional republic. Wait, according to our own government, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services specifically, the United States is actually a representative democracy. You know what that means? It means our government elected by the citizens. Citizens vote for government officials. These officials are supposed to represent the citizens' ideas and concerns in government. Excuse me. So now, of course, that's not how it always worked. Things were different. And then later on, this country actually got more democratic. So now, it's funny because it got more democratic, and then lately it's becoming less democratic under Republicans. Now, look, The government right now, unfortunately, also suffers from another problem, and that's some oligarchical tendencies here. Corporate kleptocracy, even, you could call it, because right now, a lot of our elected officials actually represent corporate donors instead of their constituents. But that's a different conversation. But here's another reason why Bliss is opposed to this bill. And it's not just because, it's ignorant of reality and history, because, ignorance is bliss and everything. No, it turns out this bill in Minnesota is actually filled with good election reforms. Among them, granting 17-year-olds the ability to register in upcoming elections as long as they will be 18 by the time election day rolls around. That's nice. Another one would be instituting an automatic voter registration system. Hey, also wonderful. That sounds good. I like it. Why would you not like it? Oh, right. Now, Republicans also oppose signing Minnesota on to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. So what is that? Well, so far, it's an agreement by many U.S. states to award electoral college votes to the winner of the national popular vote, no matter the outcome of their own jurisdiction. So basically, what does that mean? Well, it means whoever wins the popular vote wins all the electoral votes, which means they win the presidency. Now, Bliss had said in that speech, well, we got to follow, we're a constitutional republic. We have to follow the Constitution, right? Well, that interstate compact would follow the Constitution because right now it affords states the right to determine how to award their electoral votes for the selection of president. Advocates for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact would use that provision in the Constitution to award a majority of electoral votes to the winner of the national popular vote instead of the way it works right now. And how many have signed on to this? 15 states plus Washington, D.C. Now, so far, that only represents about 205 electoral votes. Of course, you have to go to 270, which is the majority. And so even if Minnesota had joined the compact, and they might, the states would only represent, again, 205 votes, meaning it wouldn't be enforced, but we would be that much closer. And more states would be allowed to sign on. And that's the nightmare scenario for the right. To have a situation where people, the popular vote, elects the president, to have more of a direct democracy type of system.
Can't let that happen.
Of course not. And look, the reason is, it's not because, Republicans keep winning and they want to give Democrats a chance through the Electoral College. No, it's actually the opposite. In the last few presidential elections, Republicans actually had won the electoral votes, but did not win the popular vote, which means, again, less actual citizens voted for them. Now, the last time they did win the popular vote was actually in 2004 with George W. Bush's second election. And understand, of course, during that time, you had John Kari who was running against him, not a very great candidate. And you also had, of course, the whole narrative of, well, you can't change horses midstream. This war that we got us into, and I got us into in Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, you just can't change away from that now, can you? No, you probably should have, but no. Now look, in 2000, Gore had won the popular vote against George W. Bush. So had we had something like this before that, we could have completely avoided, I think, the destruction of, Iraq and Afghanistan, or at least the wasting of so many years, so much blood and treasure in those disastrous overseas wars. Again, that's at least speculation. We'll never really know what would have happened. But overall point is, if Republicans had to get the popular vote, well, they would have to basically change their party. They would have to find a way to appeal to a broader base of people And right now, that's not happening. They're actually doing the opposite. They're actually losing younger generations because they continue to fight the culture wars and also fight against anything that might help them improve the material conditions of Americans, of American workers specifically. So, look, they're fighting to prevent things like student loan forgiveness, a higher minimum wage, and guaranteed health care. Turns out if we did those things, that would upset their donors. So, of course, the right wing in that hypothetical system would never win elections. And they'll tell you that. I mean, that's their argument. Oh, you got people from California. No. If you actually did change the way that your party, goes about trying to win elections, you change some of your policies so that they're not extreme, so you're not sitting there courting the extreme with abortion bans and crap, transgender bans, book bans, whatever, well, then you could actually win voters. But you don't want to do that because you lose money. We know. And the way that they win right now is to gerrymander maps, electoral maps, and so they can pick their voters, and when the time comes, are able to get the just enough electoral votes to win, even if they're not getting votes from the majority of the population. They don't want to change that system because they know if it does change, they lose. So in a way, this would be abolishing Minnesota's electoral college. Kind of. It's an ingenious way of saying, look, yes, we're still going to technically have an electoral college, but it's just going to go the way of the popular vote. It's an interesting plan. Okay. Oh, Bush had an incumbency advantage from winning in 2000 as well. Yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Hey, welcome to the stream, Roller Dragon. Welcome. All right, so we're actually going to get to the last story because I kind of rushed through a bunch of our segments here, but you're going to love this one. So let's do it. Okay.
We talk about...
Okay. I'm just checking to see if it's the video. Because I didn't have the last one. Okay. Following a failed vote last week to provide free school lunches to low-income K-12 students, Republicans in North Dakota.
We'll do it live!
It's Friday, guys and gals. Following a failed vote last week to provide free school lunches to low-income K-12 students, Republicans in North Dakota voted instead to increase their meal reimbursements. So now, in March, the end of March, Republican-dominated Senate had rejected a House Bill 1491. So it actually lost by a single vote. Now, the legislation, which had previously passed the House, would have dedicated about $6 million. Thank you, lower third. Damn. Now, the legislation, which would have previously passed the... I'm telling you, this is not going well today. This is not going well. Disaster. Sad, baby. So the legislation, which had previously passed the House, would have dedicated about $6 million over the next 2 school years to cover the cost for K-12 students with family incomes below double the federal poverty level. Children from families of 4 making less than $60,000 a year would have qualified, but now a federal program, to be fair, already provides free meals to students from families making below 130% of the federal poverty line. So the state allocation that was nixed by senators would have applied to kids with family incomes between $100,000 130 to 200% of the poverty level. So I guess if you're not super, super poor, but you're still kind of poor, well, you miss out. So, you know, if you're kind of poor, not good enough. You got to be poorer. Oh, okay, great. So now that bill, again, rejected. However, on April 6th, the Senate did pass Senate Bill 2124, which would raise the meal reimbursements received by state employees during travel within North Dakota. So now legislators are also considered to be state employees. And so lawmakers attending interim legislative meetings would be eligible for the payment reimbursements, but they do not receive meal reimbursements during biennial sessions. So now if Governor Doug Burgum signs the bill, state employees could collect up to $45 a day to pay for their meals. Oh, lovely, lovely. Now, that's actually a 29% increase from the current reimbursement rate of $35, which would cost up to around $1 million over the next 2 years. Now, look, obviously, expanding the K through 12 school lunches, that's going to cost a little bit more. Yeah, it's going to be $6 million over the next 2 years. So obviously, they took the cheaper option, which just happened to give them more food. No, nobody's going to buy that argument. Nonetheless, you had 13 Republican senators, including Majority Leader David Hogue and Assistant Majority Leader Jerry Klein, voting to increase meal reimbursements after voting against the free school lunch bill. In fact, I'm going to give you the names of the other Republican senators who voted for Senate Bill 2124 to raise their own meal reimbursements and against House Bill 1491. Randy Burkhardt, David Clemens, Bob Erbel, Judy Estenson, Kurt Kroon, Judy Lee, Randy Lem, Larry Lewick, John Schabel, Terry Wanzek, and Mike Wabama. Okay, so now, Hogue had declined to comment on the reason that he voted to increase his own reimbursements, but not to feed the hungry kids. Quote, "I don't have a good answer for you as to why we do it sometimes and not others." Okay. Now, Klein said, "Hey, look, I don't think there's any sort of correlation whatsoever between these two bills." Really? There's no correlation. You're increasing your meal reimbursement, which means the state's going to pay for your meals. But you don't want the state to pay for kids' meals. I would say those are pretty related. Just saying. Now, he also noted state employees should get a higher per diem because inflation has made eating out more expensive. Hey, I got news for you. Stop eating out. Hey, why don't you practice some personal responsibility and stop getting those those McDonald's shakes? Why don't you eat at home? Be a little bit more cheap instead of going out all the time. Personal responsibility. Now, look, that said, I understand state employees. He just happens to be a state employee. And so he's going to benefit from it. All these Republicans will benefit from it. And so if they go on trips, and that just, again, that's a nice little perk for them. But he says, no, there's no correlation here. Now, I want to direct you here to a video of Senator Mike Wabama, who, again, had voted to increase his meal reimbursements, but did not help feed the hungry kids. And he is going to tell you why.
We talk about personal responsibility as one of the major principles that the Republican Party stands on. Yes, I can understand kids going hungry, but is that really the problem of the school district? Is that the problem of the state of North Dakota? It's really the problem of parents being negligent with their kids if their kids are choosing to eat in the first place, which is entirely the problem that could be existing here. I don't believe that it is our responsibility to carry on a program in excess of what the federal government already does.
So, let me just get this straight. Feeding children in our state that are poor and hungry, not our responsibility. But feeding your Kentucky Fried Chicken Colonel Sanders looking ass is? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Because that sounds like that's what you're saying. I mean, it shows from your actions. Or, by the way, why don't you get some goddamn personal responsibility and pay for your own meals then? How about that? Or how about you pay for your own health care? How about that? Oh, no, you don't want to. Oh, I know. No, you want us to feed poor kids? No, you should get some personal responsibility. Now give us some money. So then I can go and reimburse myself for my meals. Look, this isn't the only example of hypocrisy, okay? It gets worse. Montana legislators, to go to another state here that's Republican-led, and then we'll come back to North Dakota. Earlier this year, they voted to raise their own per diem pay because of inflation. Oh, okay. So, it's the increased cost of living. We got to do something for ourselves. We got to pay ourselves more. Okay, but what about helping out kids who were poor? Well, okay, what about that? According to Montana Representative Kelly Cordum, tweeting that Republicans had twice voted down bills that would have paid for school lunches for hungry children. So now he also did the math on this one. So now it would cost the Montana taxpayer $350,000 a year to raise the per diem rate for Montana legislators. So they get paid more to deal with inflation, of course, right? For that increase. How much would it cost extra to feed the children? $300,000 a year. Oh, but we can do the more expensive thing that helps already wealthy off people. Montana legislators who make $142 a day. We can afford that. That's totally fine. But the kids, screw the kids. Look, this is the pattern. You got supposedly pro-life Republicans, pro-children, voting against feeding the poor school children, poor kids. Not only that, but they vote against laws that lower the likelihood that a mass shooting will occur in a school, but end up voting for more money for themselves and their donors. Montana, looking to lower the tax rate on the richest households from 6.5% to 5.9%. That's already on top of what the Governor Gianforte, had given the same households back in 2021. And on top of the Trump tax cuts that have also disproportionately benefited the wealthiest Montanan families. Montana's wealthiest 1%, those earning more than $500,000 a year, would see $6,000 in annual tax breaks on average, while folks earning between $43,000 and $67,000 a year would see an average $70 in tax breaks. That's Montana. Let's go back to North Dakota. A new proposal backed by Governor Burgum would also give income tax breaks to people living outside of North Dakota at an estimated cost to the state of nearly $40 million a year. Remember, can't give $6 million to feed poor, hungry kids in school, but we can give a tax break to people that aren't even living in North Dakota, cost $40 million a year. And unsurprisingly, the Republican governor's plan would disproportionately benefit the most affluent non-residents who collect checks from North Dakota, according to a Forum News Service analysis. More details. Non-residents with annual incomes north of $491,000 would realize an estimated $44.3 million in tax relief over the next 2-year budget cycle. That means high earners living outside of the state would reap about 8% of the $566 million in total tax relief provided by the bill. So that's just people that are living out of the state of North Dakota. Over the last decade, the state has collected an average of more than $70 million a year in income taxes from non-resident earners. That revenue flows to the general fund, which primarily goes toward public education and social services. Gee, I wonder why Republicans wanted to cut that tax specifically. Look at where it goes to. Look, this is who Republicans are. This is what they do when they get into office. They're not there to help you. They're not even pro-life. They starve the children and then blame the parents and tell them to take personal responsibility. And while they're doing that, they and their donors continue to get fat. Okay. Yes, they want the money indeed. This is getting out of control with the Republicans' greed and self-serving. I wonder what their kids really think about them. Well, younger people, overwhelmingly more progressive. Okay, so, look, I'm Australian, and this is mind-boggling to think that they still vote for these utterly moronic Republicans. Well, I mean, you got to look at our media system, my friend. We have corporate news. We have people, that are just able to, thanks to Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch, watch Fox News. That's the only media they get, and media doesn't cover these stories. Media for right wing for Fox News only talks about culture war issues. How it's the Democrats that are the parties of the elite, and that the Republicans are the party of the working man, which obviously not the case, as you can see. Okay, but yeah, it is a huge problem with the media landscape and the bubbles that have been created. They really do live in an alternative media reality. And I think because of our capitalist system and the way that our corporate media is set up, those bubbles are just encouraged by, things like algorithms and people's own tribalism. Okay. So, that's all I got today. Let me go through and read some super chats and member comments from you all lovely, wonderful, generous people. Okay. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $20, saying, I'm sick and tired of the racism and no gun control. No guns in this house. Jonathan Leiter, again, thank you for that. Jonathan Leiter, thank you for gifting a Waldorf Nation membership. Gabby Mathis, thank you for gifting a membership as well. Vitengale says, click like for love, not hate. Awesome. Definitely agree with that. Yes! And thank you for stopping in. Gabby Mathis also with a very kind super chat. Can we spend the defense budget on feeding and housing poor people? Yes! Yes! I would love to. Wonderful. It would be a great idea. Too bad I'm not going to do it because of, again, corruption. All right. So, Jonathan Leiter says, I'm thoroughly enjoying today's show. It's just one of the things that we love about you. Rock on. Oh yeah, this is because I had some bloopers today. You know, a little bit of
There's insanity in the control room.
How do you like that? That's another one. That's another one.
Who's got a hammer?
Exactly. Because I need a hammer. But thank you anyway. I do appreciate it. For sticking with me, you know, through the disaster.
We'll do it live.
Okay. Or the military budget. Yep. Let's see. Virginia Thomas, aka Ice Dragon, says that's exactly what he said, but as you can see, he hasn't missed any meals. Plus, Jackson, Mississippi has stopped picking up the trash. I'm gonna have to look into that. Monty Darno, thank you for the very kind $2. Keep shining that light. You're the best. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And Changeling DJ, thank you for the very kind super chat as well. That's awesome. You're all amazing. Really appreciate it. Let's go over here to our Twitch community. Pendulous Dragon, thank you for resubbing for a month at tier 1. My thoughts are your prayers don't do shit. I cannot disagree. It does nothing. Yes! It does nothing. So yes. Also, you and Bart Kyle have a lot of fun with the soundboard. True. God's favorite mathematician, by the way, thank you for resubbing for a month at tier 1 for 7 months. Sorry for letting my subscription lapse. Life just got in the way and I had limited funds. Brother, I hear you. Or sister. Sorry, I don't really know. But that's okay. It doesn't matter. I appreciate it and I understand what you're going through. Having a difficult time myself. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you helping out. I appreciate everybody helping out. And you know, and contributing to the show, whether it be, again, super chats, subscriptions, sharing, you know, gifting subs and things, or just liking and sharing, and watching and interacting with the community. I appreciate all of it, everything that you can do. Thank you. I appreciate it all. and you all as well. Brother was correct. All right. Good to know. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. That's all I've got for you all today. Again, thank you for going around the nation with me today. Really, really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here next week, Monday. Until then, love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody.
Jewish space lasers. Woke mob.
Get in a long tube with a bunch of bees. Sexual anarchy.
No.
Disappointed!
It's not a salami sandwich.
There's no ice cream in hell. They're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
And then they say, "Is Donald Trump an intellectual?" Trust me, I'm like a smart person.